Hi, Bernina Jeff here in Grand Junction, Colorado. We are doing our monthly IQ Designer Club, and we're going to do this on the Solaris today. We're going to use the freehand drawing tool and then give it some different line properties and some fill properties and show you how you can save a signature. Like if you're going to do some quilting, you want to actually have your very own signature on the quilt. We're going to show you how to do that. I'm going to do a closed object. I'm going to do a clover since St. Patrick's Day is around the corner here. And hopefully you'll learn some tricks and tips on your IQ Designer. So here we go. So when you turn your IQ Designer on, it defaults to the pencil tool. So that's your freehand drawing tool there. Now I'm just going to, if I want this freehand drawing tool to be just a regular line, 2 lines, I'm going to select it that way right now and select it in red. So now I'm active on a 2-line drawing tool and the freehand pencil. So I'm just going to take the tip of my finger. There are certain tools. This screen on the Solaris has to have a soft kind of warm tip. That's how it senses the drawing. And if you want a closed drawing, I recommend you press pretty hard against the screen. You never want to let up pressure on the screen because it'll open up the line of your drawing. So I'm going to draw just a rough clover here. Here's the stem, and then here's one of the leaves, and then here's another leaf, and here's another leaf, and then you kind of have to guess where the stem is. And I always cross over. See this little extra line? We're going to take the eraser tool in a minute to erase that line, because if you don't close the object, some of your options are not available. So it's red, so it knows it's in line. I'm going to go to this eraser tool, and I'm going to select the eraser tool, and you can select the size or square edges. I'm going to leave it at round, but it's hard to see it, so I'm going to go up here to the scroll, the magnifying glass, and enlarge it to 16,000%, 1600%. So now there's a little crossover. I'm going to use the eraser tool, and you start pretty far away from where you want to correct things. And you do not want to erase the whole line because it'll make an open object and you can't fill it then. So now I'm going to hit the hand to pan down to the bottom of that stem. And I know it's down here somewhere. Well, I'm going to have to go to 100%. And it's down here. So I'm going to hit there. Let's go to 400%. There it is. So I'm going to pan. I'm going to mark it into the middle here. Now I'm going to go up to 1600. That's how you can pan around and find that area. Hit my eraser again. And that's close enough. So now I've just edited my design. Let me put it back to maybe 200% and see if there's anything else that needs to be edited. Yeah, I've got a little extra line there, so I'm going to center that up, and I'm going to put it to 1600 again, pan it down, and I'm going to erase some of that just so there's not extra stitches. So hit the eraser. Okay. It's pretty easy once you just you have to play with it. You can't be afraid of it. So there's my clover, and it's already in a stitch. And now I want to put a fill in it. So I'm going to just hit my fill properties, and I'm going to select one here from the fills. And I did one earlier. It looked kind of like scribbles. It was pretty cool. You can do any of these. I think this is the one I used as scribbles. And I'm going to hit OK. And I want a different color on that. So I want to make it medium blue so I can see what I'm working with. And I'm going to hit my paint can or my beaker, so that's wherever I touch it's going to fill. So it just filled that clover with that selected fill. So now I want to do some editing on the line properties and the fills. So we go to next. Now, the first thing that's going to come up to it is a little chip of what the fill looks like. The next one is the size of it. So I'm going to reduce the size so I get to see more fill in there. And I'm going to say okay at 60%. This is kind of an artsy thing, so you just have to play around with it. It's going to give you some sort of representation. Oh, it kind of looks like poodle hair. I like that. So now you can do your offset. This is where it kind of makes it random shift. I love the random shift playing with this because you get something different every time you wouldn't even expect. So now let's see what it's going to give us a preview a little bit. So see, it's just kind of shifted all those, skewed them a little bit. I really didn't like the way that turned out, so I'm going to go back to maybe a 2 random shift and hit it OK. And then we can adjust the size, the how thickness of the stitch you want. So I want it to really show up. So I'm going to leave it at the thickness at the biggest. And right here is off. You can outline this. And I've already outlined it with the other stitch. So I just want it with the single stitch so the outline is on. And I could change the angle if I wanted. That's not going to make a lot of difference. Now, I can select another item here, which is the line items. If I decided now I wanted to change the line properties, I could do a triple stitch on it. I could do this little star around it. I could do a triangle. I could do a button, blanket stitch, or any of those you want. You can even do a satin stitch. So I'm going to leave it as the triple stitch and click OK. So now it's thinking, it's putting all those ideas into my preview here. So I'm going to hit set. And it always warns you, it's going to convert this to an embroidery pattern. And at that previous step is probably when you should have saved it to the IQ Designer. I'm going to go to Edit. And I'm going to resize this because this is 7.5 by 7.5. So if you hit this option, this little bar, this gives you the option to resize it up to 200%. It always asks you that again. So I'm going to reduce it to hopefully to fit in a 5 by 7 hoop. And it will. So it's 4.4. And I like that. So I'm going to hit OK. And we're going to stitch this out. It only takes a minute or so to stitch. So lower my foot. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this all the way down the bottom so I'll have more hoops to practice with. And we're just going to go ahead and get it started. I have a mantra on any embroidery class I do. I always say there's 2 kinds of embroiderers. Ones that sew a sample and ones that wish they did. And now that I'm sitting here talking, I forgot my lapel microphone, so I hope this turns out okay. So as you see, it's starting to stitch out. It's going to take a while, and I don't want to sit here for 10 minutes and watch it stitch out. But you get the idea. You just need to play around with this and have some fun. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop, and I'm going to stitch this out another time, so I'm going to put it into my memory of the sewing machine. All right, so I said, what about doing signatures on your quilt? I'm going to show you how to make a signature on your quilt and save it so you can put it, embroider it on. Some people actually embroider it on the binding of their quilt. So you can embroider it on the label of your quilt. So we're going to go to Home, cancel this suggestion, and then go to IQ Designer. And I'm going to use my finger again. But I don't want my signature being 8 inches wide, so I'm going to take my magnifier and go to 400% and stitch it in there. Or I'm going to just make my signature, Bernina Jeff. Just going to do Jeff for simplicity. And then I'm going to select a property for it. I'm going to do a triple stitch in light blue, medium blue. I have to hit the paint can or the beaker and touch the area. Now it's blue, so I know that it has accepted those properties. I'm going to hit next. See how little it ended up being? And that's probably a good size. I always like to increase my run pitch so it smooths out those lines. You just have to play with it. A practice worth a lot. Go ahead and set. It's going to convert it to a embroidery pattern. Here's where we can edit size. So my size right now is 1.19 inches by 1.6. I like that. So now I'm going to put it way down here. This is worth watching stitch out. Trim that thread. So this being a triple stitch, it's going to have enough density in those stitches to kind of actually see what's going on. And you can save this, of course. Here we go. Bobbin thread's empty. You get the point. We're not going to change the bobbin for here. But you get it just the way you like it. Hit memory again. Put it to your sewing machine. Now, if you have other baby lock machines, you can actually save it to a USB stick. Now that format it saves to only works on baby lock and brother machines. So it's a proprietary format. So you can't take it over to a Bernina or something like that. So that's your quick, easy, freehand how to make designs with the tip of your finger. Thank you very much, Bernina Jeff. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me at my email at P as in Peter, V as in Victor, LEFTY@AOL.com, or call the shop at 970-256-1293. Thanks.